Somebody once said that the sky is the limit, and I was so convinced that boundaries didn't exist that I immersed myself completely. Especially in the cosmopolitan world that we live in, where we often don't realize that we're being forced into the rat race called success. When I was in the US in 2019, I thought that people were completely different from Europeans. They basically worked harder. I would say 24/7, 365. And some of them even lived in cars. They couldn't afford living in an apartment, but they devoted their whole lives to success. They devoted their whole lives to their dreams and goals. And I was really inspired by it. And I really admired their approach, not only in terms of work, but also in the way they treated their families, the way they spent their time, approached money, set goals, and formed relationships. The way they interacted with strangers on the street was, it felt genuine and candid. For the first time in my life, I felt that people cared, really. So back then, I was pretty serious about my goals and dreams. So when I came back to Poland from the work and travel program that I was taking part in to defend my thesis, it only strengthened my conviction that I should take things even more seriously. And in hindsight, I can definitely say that I was a perfectionist and a maximalist in many areas of life, which I'm not proud of right now, but it's a lesson worth sharing for sure. So I'd like to start this video with a question. Where is our sense of safety when our boundaries aren't properly set within our personal space? Sometimes it's too late to act because we unconsciously let others cross those boundaries. But I can certainly say that setting those boundaries is the foundation of safety. All my life, I had been suppressing my emotions, letting others make most of my decisions. I wasn't able to oppose many arguments, even when I had valid ones up my sleeve. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to argue, especially with people I cared about, I respected, and valued. I always felt inferior, that I don't deserve to be respected, at least not like them. I wanted to live in peace and harmony with everyone. So I respected other people's space more than my own for the sake of my relationships with them. If we don't take things seriously, who is about to do so? That was my question I asked myself. But if we don't set boundaries, it's likely that everyone will like us and will be able to compromise with anyone but on their terms and will end up terrible about it. In other words, we become submissive, compliant, and overly tolerant. Therefore, it's worth considering whether it's more important to be liked by everyone or, on the other side, to shape a dignified identity that we feel confident and good about. Meanwhile, firm boundaries should be non negotiable. They should define who we truly are and where our safe space lies. And since no one is obligated to guess our boundaries, we should clearly communicate them to others to avoid potential misunderstandings. Of course, it's not that simple, but we should try at least. There is a wide range of boundaries, such as physical, sexual, intellectual, emotional, and material, that we have to develop to live in this world in a harmony with other people and to be able to negotiate with others to get what we really want. And boundaries are and should be flexible because our identity evolves as we gain experience. Sometimes boundaries are formed by a trauma and may not be a healthy foundation for safety. Of course, ideally, they should be established based on our mistakes and a willingness to set them more firmly. What happens if our boundaries remain unspoken? If they're crossed, are you immediately able to notice that it happened? If you feel that your boundaries have been crossed in any area, do you inform the other person or do you keep it to yourself? Because most of my life, I had kept it to myself. I felt inferior. I felt that I didn't deserve to fight. I didn't deserve the best. So the more you keep it in, the less you feel like you deserve the best. And sometimes we take others' words for granted, not wanting to offend them, or we generally feel that we shouldn't be rude in professional or familial settings. However, sometimes we actually need to be firm and establish those clear boundaries. We don't want to be trampled or become victims of the situation. But this is what we usually do, especially in the familial context. We feel obligated to help, and then what? Usually, in such cases, we feel overwhelmed by relationships. We find it hard to say no. We feel frustrated or exhausted by people. We want to help everybody, and then we regret it or complain that we're drained of energy, that we're surrounded by vampires. We don't often tell people how we feel, and later we speak negatively about them to others. We're not truthful. Why not? The life would be much easier. But it's not. Especially in the European world, we cannot be truthful for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe you have an idea. Tell me. Think about a situation when someone once violated your boundaries, and instead of telling them, you kept it to yourself. How did it affect your relationship? The next time it happened, did you clearly inform the person about your boundary, or did you not and instead held a grudge against this person? Because this is what we usually do. We don't often communicate our feelings, our emotions directly, and then we hold a grudge. When we don't clearly set our boundaries and allow them to be crossed, we often realize that it only happens when the situation has completely spiraled out of control and we cannot do anything about it, and then we feel inferior. So this doesn't mean that's the moment we should not react. Maybe it's a lesson. Maybe we can keep it for ourselves or to ourselves, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't react and confront our feelings. So we should never keep it to ourselves, suppress the emotion or hold a grudge against the person because of what we feel. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Don't ever forget about yourself and your boundaries. Thanks for watching, and drop a comment if you found this valuable. See you in the next one. Cheers!